Okay, so let's begin with the session. Okay, so probably in yesterday's session here, probably 3 4 days, we're done with entire libraries here, including string class here. Okay, so now I am just left out with a few more topics here. Okay, which I shall try to do it in a real quick succession here. Okay, so the topic which we are going to discuss today is something called as exception handling. Okay, so this is going to be one of the most important topics for clearing an interview. Okay, so they're gonna ask you a lot of important questions here. Okay, exceptions is one such topic here, which is really important for your project perspective as well as for clearing an interview perspective. Okay, so therefore try to concentrate for the next 2 3 days. I would be done with exceptions, so try to concentrate it over here. Okay, so what is an exception and what are we supposed to do here? Okay, it's a very simple part here. Okay, so now here, before starting with an exception here, let us try to understand what is an error here. Okay, before getting to know what is an exception, let us try to understand what is an error here. So error is nothing but it is an interruption. Okay, what is an error? Error is nothing but an interruption here which might occur during, okay, compile time, okay, and as well as a runtime here. Okay, so these are not the types of errors here. I'm just telling you error is an interruption which will happen during execution. Okay, error is an exception. I mean, error is an interruption which will happen during execution of a program. But that might occur during two scenarios, either during compile time or runtime here. Okay, when do we get compile time error here? Whenever we have syntax mistakes, okay, whenever there is a mistake with respect to the syntax here, we will always get, okay, compilation error or compile time error here. Clear? And when do we get runtime error? Runtime error, most of the time, okay, we get whenever we execute a class without the main method. Okay, main method is the beginning point of a Java program, right? If I execute a class without the main method, we will get runtime error. Okay, so what is an error? Error is an interruption which will occur during execution of a program. Okay, error is an interruption which will occur during execution of a program. That is during compile time due to syntax mistakes and runtime and whenever we execute a class without the main method. And whenever we get an error here, we are always supposed to, debug it. When we get an error, we are supposed to debug. We cannot handle an error here. Okay, errors cannot be handled. Okay, we cannot handle an error. Okay, we have to just debug it. Sir, you told so many things, sir. Okay, what is the actual meaning of it, sir? I will tell you. See here, go back to my Eclipse here. Okay, let me create a new Java project. Below file or icon, I have a new option, right? Click on new. Okay, and I am supposed to create a Java project and tell next here. Okay, click on Java project and tell next here. So the project name. So obviously I am working around with something called as exception handling. Okay, so what is the project name here? I am working around exception handling. Under exception handling, I will create a package. See, I have a package called as src. Under that, I need to create a package. How will I create? Again, shortcut key, Control N, search for package and create a package name. I'll just give the package name as com here. Okay. So now here we have this entire process over here. Now here we have a project. I mean, we have a project and we have a package and then control N. Okay. Control N here. And I will create a class here. I will create a class and the class name is, I will just give it as demo. Okay, what is the class name? The class name is demo over here. Okay, so now here I got an a Java program successfully. Okay, now I will have one main method over here. Main control spacebar. When I tell control spacebar, the main method will get generated over here. Okay, so I have a class and I have my main method wherein the execution will begin from. So now when I tell sys out over here, we got the output. Now here I want to print hello here. As soon as I write hello over here, can you see I got an error? In Eclipse here, while programming itself, while developing the program itself, the compilation is also happening simultaneously. Therefore, when I hover on it, it is telling hello cannot be resolved to a variable, meaning this is a set of characters here. Therefore, this is an syntax error. Okay, this is nothing but compile time error due to syntax mistake. Okay, the syntax for writing a set of characters is within double quotations here. Okay, again, if I don't add this semicolon, again, see, if I just hover on it, it's a syntax error. Insert semicolon to complete block statements, meaning I have to add a semicolon. So error is just an interruption which will happen during execution of a program. Okay, that is during compile time due to syntax mistakes. Okay, you understood what is compile time error. Okay, syntax mistake. Now when I execute it over here, okay, I got the output as hello here. Okay, so we understood what is. See, if I just write it as system over here, again it's an error. Why? System is not resolved here. What is system? System is a predefined class and class's naming convention is uppercase S. So compilation error will occur only due to syntax mistakes, syntactical mistakes here. And what are we supposed to do? We have to debug. We cannot handle. We have to just debug here. Okay. So this is called as compile time error. What is runtime error? See, most of the time here we get runtime error. See, this is a perfect class here. It is absolutely a valid class. No compile time error at all. Why? Compilation error will occur due to syntax mistakes. No, this is absolutely a valid program here. But now when I execute the Java program here, can you see I get runtime error over here? Error. Main method is not found in com.demo, meaning demo is a class present in com folder. It's giving a fully qualified class name. Okay. Please define main method. It is also begging. Okay. So please add the main method as public static void main. Got it? Majority of the time here, we will get runtime error due to, executing a class without main method. Now when I execute it, see, no errors at all. So this is what we call it as, okay, compile time error and runtime error. Okay, so there is one question, sir. Is infinite loop a runtime error here? Okay, look here. See here, infinite loop. While of true. Okay, don't you think so? This is an infinite loop over here, and I just keep on printing hi here. I just keep on printing hi over here. Okay, we know what is while loop. No, what is while loop here? While loop is nothing but in until it is false, it keeps on looping. Okay, see, while true, execute. While true, execute. Now when I execute the program over here, see, hi, 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 hi. It keeps on going to print until the stack is full here. So it keeps on printing so many times. It's printing, 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 printing. Some or the other way, I get one problem here. Okay, so we have to wait for it because until the stack is full, it keeps on executing it over here. See, it keeps on executing. This is not an error over here. Okay, so this leads to infinite loop and I have to just terminate over here. Clear? I just terminate it over here. Clear? So this is not runtime error over here. Clear? So infinite loop meaning it's keeping on going, it's keeping on executing. Okay. So this is what we are supposed to understand here. So basically here, what did you understand here? Okay, what is an error here? If someone asks what is an error, you can tell. Error is an interruption or we can also write it as a mistake. Okay, error is a mistake or an interruption which will occur during the execution of a program. That is during compile time. Okay, we get syntax mistake. We get syntax mistakes. Okay, during compilation time. And when do we get runtime error? Whenever we execute a class without main method. So therefore, errors cannot be handled. Therefore, they have to be debugged here. Got it? So this is all about error. Okay. But the most important concept to be discussed in today's session is what is an exception, sir? Okay. Let us try to understand what is an exception. Okay. Now, imagine, okay, this is my Java program. Okay, this is my Java program, and my Java program has about 5 lines of instructions. Line number 1, line number 2, line number 3, line number 4, line number 5 here. Clear? So now you start the execution of a program. Line number 1 gets executed, 2 gets executed, 3, 4, 5, and your program will terminate. So what did you understand? Your program started, executed, terminated. No problems, nothing, successful program, successful output, perfect. Okay, not a problem at all. But at times what will happen, you will start the execution of a program. First line will get executed, second line will get executed. But in line number 3, some event or interruption will occur in such a way here, your program will get terminated here itself. Your program will get terminated here itself. So what is an exception here? Exception is an event or an interruption, okay, wherein your program gets stopped, your program gets terminated, meaning your execution of a program gets stopped and the below lines of code will not get executed at all. Okay, so I told you, right, your successful scenario is you have to start the program, execute everything, and terminate. That's the beautiful flow here. But sometimes, unfortunately, you will start your program execution. First line gets executed, second line executed. But some event will occur during runtime only. Okay, when I execute the program only during runtime, some kind of event will occur over here in such a way that your program will get terminated, your program will stop its execution. Okay, and the below lines of code will not at all get executed. In simple terms, it's an abrupt termination. Okay, so what are we supposed to do here? Sir, whenever we get an exception over here, we are always supposed to handle it. Okay, so what are we supposed to do? We are always supposed to handle it. And the process of handling an exception is called as exception handling. So how do you define an exception here? Sir, exception is an event or an interruption which stops the execution of a program. Meaning, once an interruption, once an exception will occur, your program gets stopped. Okay, your execution of the program will stop in between only, wherein the below lines of code will not get executed at all. Abrupt termination of your program. So therefore, if we get an exception, what are we supposed to do? We have to handle it. And the process of handling an exception is called as exception handling. So how do we handle? What are the things we need to do? Everything we will try to understand it in a beautiful way here. Clear? Before starting with that, okay, all you have to understand the exception hierarchy. Okay, you have to understand what? You have to understand the exception hierarchy here. This is one of the most important part which we have to understand. So rather than writing it over here, I have already done it over here. Okay. So if you could closely observe this picture over here, the diagram which I have, which is on the screen here. See here, guys. Object is the supermost class in entire Java here. Okay. But in the exception hierarchy here, we have one class called as throwable. Throwable is the supermost class in exception hierarchy. Under that, we have two subclasses. That is error and then its exception here. Okay. So this is what we are supposed to understand over here. Okay. So what are we supposed to do over here? So in simple terms here, object is the supermost class in entire Java here. Okay. Object is the supermost class in entire Java. But in exception hierarchy, which is the supermost class? Throwable. Under throwable, we have two classes, error and exception. We will ignore error. We are not concentrating on error here. We are concentrating on exception here. And you have to always understand one part here. Okay. All the exceptions are all predefined classes. When I tell exception, it's a predefined class. Or you can also create your own exception. That is custom exception. We will talk about it later. Okay. But all the classes are exceptions only. So what are the different types of exceptions we have? File not found, class not found, interrupted, IO exception. So these are all the classes which is inheriting the exception class directly. Therefore, they are all called as checked exceptions. Any class, okay, which inherits the exception class directly, they are all called as checked exceptions here. Okay, and a few exceptions such as arithmetic exception, array index out of bounds exception, null pointer exception, class cast exception, they all will inherit the runtime exception class, and that runtime exception class will in turn inherit the exception class here. So the classes which will inherit the runtime exception class are called as unchecked exceptions. But internally, all the exceptions are directly or indirectly subclasses of exception class. Correct? See, all the classes. See, IO exception has the superclass called as exception. File not found, class not found, interrupted IO. They're all inheriting the exception class directly. Therefore, we call it as checked exception. So these are all the subclasses of exception class. And class not found, arithmetic exception, array index out of bounds exception, null pointer, class cast, they all will inherit the runtime exception class, and runtime exception will inherit the exception class. But ultimately, all the exceptions are all classes, and they all have superclass as exception class. Okay, so all the classes are subclasses of exception class here. So this is what we are supposed to understand. What is checked, what is unchecked, I will tell you later, not today. Okay, you'll understand in probably 2-3 days. You will come to the conclusion of exceptions here. So this is what we are supposed to understand. Clear? Now when I go back to my program over here, okay, so we understood the exception hierarchy also. Okay, so exceptions such as, okay, arithmetic exception, array index out of bounds, okay, out of bounds exception, okay, they all will inherit the runtime exception class, and this runtime exception class will inherit the exception class. Arithmetic exception, array index out of bound exception, they all will inherit the runtime exception class, and that guy will inherit the exception class. And a few exceptions such as class not found exception, file not found exception, they all will inherit the exception class directly. So all the exceptions are all classes, and they are all subclasses of the exception class either directly or indirectly here. Okay, so this is what we are supposed to understand. Clear? So when I go back to the notes over here, okay, so now here, what are we supposed to do? Okay, the first topic which we discussed was what is an error? Error is okay, so see here, what is an exception basically? Exception is an event or an interruption which stops the execution of a program. Meaning, once an event or interruption will occur, your program execution will stop. When the program execution stops here, the below lines of code will not get executed. So you can add one point here wherein, okay, below lines of code below lines of code will not get executed. Clear everyone here? Okay. So this is what we are supposed to understand here. Okay. Once an exception occurs, okay, once an event or an interruption will occur, your program execution will stop. Okay. And the below lines of code will not get executed at all. Okay. So therefore, what are we supposed to do here? We have to handle. Okay, exception is a runtime interruption which can be handled. Error also, it's also a runtime interruption. During the execution only it will happen, but we cannot handle. We have to always debug here. Okay, so there are two types of error. Errors meaning errors can occur during two ways. Okay, errors can occur during, okay, compile time. Why do we get compile time error? Due to syntax mistakes. And runtime error when we execute a class without the main method. So these are the few reasons here why we would get an error here. Clear? So now what is exception handling? The process of handling an exception is called as exception handling. And how do we handle an exception? With the help of try block and catch block. Clear? So now we will go back to one program here and I will explain it in a beautiful way here. Okay. So I have a class called as demo, and I have my main method. Okay. Now here I will write one data here. Okay, I will write one data. So here I will tell sys out. Okay, I will write it as start here. For my understanding, I will just write it as start over here, and then I will also write it as end over here. So I have it as start and I have it as end over here. So now here I want to accept dynamic input from the user. Okay, dynamic input in the sense through the help of scanner class. So I will tell scanner scan equals to new scanner of. Okay, I create an object of scanner, then I need to pass system.in, and then I have to import the scanner class from which package? Java.util package, and I have told you each and everything several times. Okay, why is it giving a warning over here? Because resource leak. Okay, it's telling here resource leak, the scan is never closed. Once we are done with the job here, it's always a good practice to close the object resource. So when I tell scan.close, once I'm done with the job, the scanner object will close here, meaning it will get garbage collected. I'm done with the job. Even if you don't write it, it's fine, but good practice, do it. Okay, and now here I will tell sys out enter. Okay, enter a number. Okay, I'll tell enter the value of a here. Okay, and I will accept that input scan dot next int here. I will scan the input. Okay, I will accept the input and store it into a variable called as a here. We know how do we work, right? And then enter the value. Okay, value of b here. Okay, enter the value of b here. Okay, again I will accept the input. Okay, I will take the input. Okay, and I will store it into a variable b which is of type int over here, and then finally I have to divide it. Okay, a divided by b here. Okay, and scan dot close meaning I'm done with the job, and end here. So now when I start execute the program here, see start. Okay, I'm starting the program. Enter the value of A. I give it as 10. Okay, enter the value of B. Meaning, see, enter the value of B will get printed. Scan.next int means my console is waiting for some input to be accepted. I give it as 5 until enter. So, my program started properly, executed properly and terminated properly. Your program was successful execution. Without any problems, your program got executed. Clear? So you started the program, you accepted the input, you're trying to accept the input from the user, enter the value of A will get printed. Scan.nextInt means the console is waiting for some input to be given from the keyboard. Okay. So when I tell C, enter the value of A, so the console, this is the console. Okay. The console is waiting for some input to be given from the keyboard. I'll give it as 20. So the 20, whatever I give, that will get stored into A. Again, enter the value of B. Scan.nextInt means the console is waiting for some input to be given from the keyboard. I'll give it as 5 here. So the output is 4. 20 divided by 5, it's 4 here. And close meaning I'm done with the job and end here. Now similarly, what if, what if A is 10 and B is 0? Can we divide a number by 0? No. But still if I try to divide it in Java here, can you see what happened over here? Your program started, it was executing over here. As soon as you tried to divide it by 0 here, an exception occurred and your program got terminated. The execution of your program got terminated only. See, exception in thread main, meaning exception has occurred in the main method. What is the exception name? Arithmetic exception. So when we divide a number by 0 here, we will get an arithmetic exception. And that arithmetic exception is a class that is present in java.lang package. Okay. And why are we getting that exception? Because you are dividing the number by 0. That's the reason you're getting an exception. And which line number is giving that exception? Line number 19. So as a programmer, as a software developer here, we are supposed to know the exception name, what is the reason, what is the message for the exception, and which is the line number. So line number 19 is causing the exception, meaning exception is occurring in line number 19, wherein your program execution will stop and the below lines of code will not get executed at all. See here, end did not get executed. Why? Abrupt termination. As soon as exception will occur, your program execution will stop and the below lines of instructions will not get executed, which is a huge problem here. So what are we supposed to do here? So you have to handle an exception in such a way that even if you give, okay, even if you try to divide it by zero here, your complete program execution should happen here. That is the reason here, whenever we get an exception, we need to handle it, okay? And the process of handling an exception is called as exception handling. And how do you handle it? With the help of try block and catch block here, okay? So how do we develop try and catch block, sir? I will tell you here. So here you have to write try, okay? Open curly braces, close curly braces. So this is the scope of the try block. If you have try, mandatorily, you should also have something called as catch block. Catch, open curly braces, close curly braces. So try and catch block are like couples. They have to always be together. If there is try, catch should be there. Okay. So now catch, open parenthesis, close. Within that, we are supposed to give the exception name. Okay, exception name and the reference variable. Okay, reference variable over here. Okay, so this is what we are supposed to understand. Clear? Now, first of all, how do you handle an exception? Try block and catch block. They have to always be together. And what is try block, sir? So the set of instructions which gives an exception, the lines whichever gives an exception here, we have to write it in the try block here. And if at all an exception will occur, I need to give certain solution, no? That message here, that has to be written within the catch block here. And the catch block will get executed only if an exception occurs. Not all the time he'll get executed, okay? Only when an exception occurs, we have to execute the catch block here. Clear? So now I go back to my program over here. Okay, I'll explain it, don't worry, okay? Line number 19 is giving an exception. The lines whichever gives an exception, okay, we have to write it within the try block here. It can be one line or two lines. The critical lines, okay, which might give an exception here, try to write it within the try block, okay. And the solution, if at all, exception will occur, we have to give certain solution message, that has to be written within the catch block, okay. Catch, open curly braces, close curly braces, okay. Within the catch block, what type of exceptions is the catch block supposed to catch here? What type of exception should be caught here? Only if arithmetic exception. So we have to write the arithmetic exception here. Arithmetic exception and a reference variable E here. It's something like declaration, guys. Int A. What is that meaning? A is of type int here. Similarly, A is of type arithmetic exception, which is a non-primitive data type. Okay, now as simple as that. Okay, and some suitable solution. Okay, I'll write. Okay, dabba fellow, do not divide by 0. Okay, do not divide by 0 here. Okay, so I'll just write this entire data. So clear everyone here. So this is all about my entire program. See, first of all, we have created an start here. Your program starts over here. You created an object of scanner pass system.in and you have imported it as well. And then your execution, this is what is going to happen here. Okay, see here, your execution starts from main method. Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, right. Okay, see here, yes. Your execution starts from main method. Start will get executed. Then scanner object will get created. Enter the value of A. You give the value of A as 10. Assume A as 10 and B as 5. Assume. Okay. Then automatically the control gets into the try block. 10 divided by 5 here. What is 10 divided by 5? 10 divided by 5 is nothing but 2 here. Clear? So 2 will get printed. Did we get any exception? No, no exceptions here. So the catch block will not get executed. Scanner object will get closed and end here. Meaning, so now when I execute the Java program, see, enter the value of A 10, enter the value of B 5, see, to end. Meaning there was no interruption at all, no problems at all. Okay. Now here, imagine I give the value of A as 10, value of B as 0 here. When I tell 10 divided by 0 here, we will immediately get an exception. What is that? Arithmetic exception here. Got the clarity here? As soon as we get arithmetic exception, when we try to divide a number by 0, we get arithmetic exception. So immediately from the try block, as soon as an exception will occur, it will go in search of the catch block here. So catch block. What type of exceptions it is going to catch? Arithmetic exception. And the exception occurred here is arithmetic exception. And the catch block is trying to catch arithmetic exception. Now the catch block will get executed. Dabba fellow, do not divide by 0. And then end over here. So now when I execute the program, see here, start, enter the value of A, 10, B, enter the value of B, 5, see, to end. No errors, nothing over here. Similarly, start, enter the value of A, 10, enter the value of B. Now I give it as 0 and I tell enter here. Now the exception is not occurring over here. Why? Because you have handled an exception in such a way that even if you divide a number by 0 here, your program does not stop in between. Why? You have handled it in such a way, if we try to divide it by 0, the catch block will get executed and we have handled it in a beautiful manner here. So this is what we are supposed to understand when it comes to exception handling. So if I do not use try and catch block, see, if I do not use try and catch block when I execute it, see, A is 10, B is 0, your program gets terminated. See, exception occurred, your program got terminated in between, wherein the below lines of code did not get executed. Now you will handle it in such a way, okay, even if we try to divide by number by 0, okay, 10, 0, your program execution will happen here without stopping in between. So this is the advantage of exception handling. In real time, this topic you will be using it widely here. Got the clarity here? Okay. So how are we supposed to handle an exception? We are supposed to handle an exception with the help of try and catch block, meaning the critical lines of code. Okay. It might be one line or it might be 10 lines, whichever might give an exception. Don't write your entire Java program only in try block. Okay. Only the critical lines which might give an exception. So we are supposed to write it within the try block. And if there is try block, mandatorily you like it, you don't like it, you should have catch block here. Okay. And the solution has to be returned. Okay. And the solution of the catch block has to, the catch block, whatever solution it's there, you have to write it within the catch block. And when will the catch block get executed? Only if an exception occurs, not all the time he won't get executed. Only if you get an exception here, the catch block will get executed. Clear? And what is the syntax of try and catch block? See, try, you have to write the set of lines which will give an exception, immediately catch block, and you have to write the solution here. If at all an exception occurs, what the hell am I supposed to do? I have to write it over here. So this is how we are supposed to develop a Java program by handling the exception here. Clear? So now when I go back to my program, and can I execute one more program here? Yes, absolutely. So I will have a class called as test. Okay. Over here, I will have my main method wherein the execution will begin from. Okay. Now here, we all know what is, for my understanding, sys out start. Okay. Sys out end here. Starting point, ending point. Hey, this is just for my understanding. Okay. Don't always write start and start end. Okay. Just purely for my understanding perspective here. Okay. Now, I have an array. See, int a. Is it array? Hey, sir. No, sir. This is just a variable, sir. Okay. If you want to create an array, how will you tell here? So you have to write it as brackets. This is integer array here. Clear? So this is what we are supposed to understand. Okay. Integer array a. Now equals to, I will just write it as 10, comma 20, comma 30. So we have an array A which is storing 10, 20, 30 over here. Clear? Okay. And now I will write it as sys out. Okay. A of 1. I am trying to print the value present in index position 1 here. Okay. So now when I execute the data over here, okay, when I execute the data, look what is output here. Start 20 end. Your program started successfully, executed successfully, and it got terminated as well, right? Start, you have an array and you're printing the value in index position 1, that is 20, and then end. No problems. What if I try to print A of 99? I am trying to print the value, the object present in index position 99. And I know that there is no 99th index position as of now. But still when I execute the program, see what happens here. Start will get executed. Okay, start will get executed and exception is occurring in the main method. Thread, main is a thread internally. Okay, we'll talk about multi-threading, then I'll tell you. Okay, exception has occurred in the main method. And what is the exception name? Array index out of bounds exception here, and that exception is a class that is present in java.lang package. And why are we getting that exception? Because there is some index problem with respect to 99. So index out of bound exception, and the problem is with respect to 99. And which is the line number giving an exception? 11. So as a programmer, I should know the exception name, the line number, and the message we are supposed to give here. So once an exception occurred, see, an event or an interruption occurred wherein your program got terminated, okay, and the below lines of code did not get executed. So what are we supposed to do here? We are supposed to handle, sir, if you get an exception, handle it. How do we handle an exception? Simple. The lines which will give an exception, write it within the try block. See, try block here. You can write it in the same line also, no? Okay. The lines which might give an exception, write it in the try block. And the solution, okay, if at all an exception occurs, what are we supposed to do? Write it within the catch block. Okay. Catch, what type of exception should be caught here? Okay, what type of exception should be caught? When we get array index out of bounds exception. Okay, completely your turn. Look at the naming convention for a class. Each first character is uppercase. Can you closely observe? I told you long back the naming convention for a class. See, we're following it. Camel case. Okay, and the reference variable e here. So here I will just write it as invalid index. Now when I execute the program here, even if I print A of 99, which index position is not there, the catch block, I have handled it in such a way, even if there is invalid index position, your complete program will get executed. So start got executed. Okay, you have an array. When I try to print A of 99, you will get array index out of bound exception. The object of array index out of bound exception is thrown over here. This is caught by the catch block. Okay, the exception occurred here is array index. The exception caught here is array index. Therefore, invalid index will get executed and then end here. So this is how we are supposed to always handle an exception here. Clear? This is all about it. Clear? Now here, okay, there is one important topic which we need to understand. Okay, what is that, sir? If I have a class called as, okay, if I have a class called as runner, okay, I'll have my main method. Okay, I'll have my main method. Okay, now when I tell sys out, okay, 10 divided by 2. Okay, when I tell 10 divided by 2 here, what will be the output here? It's 5. So 10 divided by 2 is nothing but 5 here. I got the output as 5 here. But as soon as I tell 0 here, okay, when I execute it over here, I get an exception over here. I am getting an exception called as arithmetic exception. But internally, what is happening here? Object of arithmetic exception. Okay, arithmetic exception is thrown here. Arithmetic exception is thrown here. Got it? When I divide a number by 0 here, an object of arithmetic exception is thrown here. Clear? Now, what are we supposed to do? Handle. Try Okay, this is the data here. This is the data. Try, and I have suitable catch block. Okay, and what type of exception should be caught here? Arithmetic exceptions. Okay, so arithmetic E. So why is this, sir? Because we are dividing a number by 0, an object of arithmetic exception is thrown. When I throw that exception here, it is caught by reference E, which is of type arithmetic exception. So here I have to give some solution here. Sys out invalid denominator. Okay, invalid denominator. Okay. So now when I go back to my, one instance here, I will show it to you. So, okay, see here. Okay, imagine this is, I'll tell throw 10. Okay, so I'll tell here throw 10 here. So if I'm throwing 10 here, I will store it into a variable A which is of type int here. Correct? So when I tell throw 10, I am giving 10 to A. Okay, what will be the type of A? Int here. Similarly, when I tell throw 20.5, throw means I'm giving. Okay, I'm giving 20.5 here. That will get stored into a variable E which is of type double here. Clear? Now similarly, if I tell throw new car off, I am throwing the object of car. Okay, throw means I am throwing, giving. And what am I throwing? An object of car. That I will store it into a reference C which is of type car only. Why? This is an object of car. An object of car is getting stored into a reference C which is of type car only. No, an object of car can be stored into a reference C which is of type car here. So similarly, when I tell try, okay, open curly braces, close, and when I tell system dot out dot println 10 divided by 0 here, okay, what is happening internally? Internally, an object of arithmetic exception is created. Arithmetic exception E equals to new arithmetic exception. Okay, an object of arithmetic exception is created and that object here is thrown here, throw E here. So now there is a catch block. Okay, catch block, and here it is arithmetic exception E here. Open curly braces, close here. So now see here, the control gets into the try block. When I tell 10 divided by 0, what is happening internally? An object of arithmetic exception got created and that object, that is E, is thrown. And that object is caught by the reference E, which is of type arithmetic exception only. Why? Because I'm throwing an object of arithmetic exception. Here it should be caught by a reference E, which is of type arithmetic exception. So in other words, you can just write it as new arithmetic exception. I am throwing an object of arithmetic exception that is caught by a reference E which is of type arithmetic exception only. So this is the internal working when we try to, divide a number by 0 here. Clear? Similarly, okay, what is happening over here? Try block. Okay, I am trying to print, okay, the index position. See, system.out.println A of 200. Imagine there is no index position 200. So internally what will happen? Step number 1, an object of array index out of bounds exception will get created. Okay, an object of array index out of bounds exception will get created. After that, step number 2, that object is thrown. Throw X, meaning it will create an object of arithmetic exception and it is throwing that particular object here. And that has to be caught by, okay, the catch block. And what will be the reference type? Array index out of bounds exception only. And the reference type can be anything. X. See, I'm throwing an object of array index out of bound exception that is caught by E, which is of type array index out of bound exception. Clear? That can also be told as new array index out of bounds exception object. I am throwing array index out of bound object that is caught by a reference E, which is of type array index out of bound exception. So why is this reference type? To catch the exception. If I am giving you 10 rupees, what will you do? You will store it in your pocket. If I give you 100 rupees, you will store it in your pocket. Similarly, he is giving the object of arithmetic array index out of bound exception. he will store it into a reference E, which is of type array index out of bound exception. Clear? So this is the internal working of, okay, the data here. See, internally what will happen here? An object of arithmetic exception is created, the object is thrown, and it is caught by the catch block here. So this is what is happening. This is step number 3. An object of arithmetic, I mean array index object is created, the object is thrown, that is caught by the catch block here with that respective reference here. So this is what we are supposed to understand with respect to the internal working here. Got it? So I hope, why is this reference? This is one way, and there is one more way of answering as well, that I'll do it later when I have to access those important methods here. Clear? Now there's one more few questions here which I'll try to address over here. Okay, and a few questions are there, I'll answer at the last here, guys. So now here I have a class over here called as example. Okay, now I will have my main method. Okay, I'll have my main method. So over here, when I tell sys out 10 divided by 0 here, we will definitely get an exception. So what are we supposed to do? We are supposed to handle it. Correct? So we are supposed to do what? We are supposed to handle it. Why is it giving an error? Because we don't have catch block. Catch arithmetic exception E, and here I'll write it as invalid denominator. Okay, I just write it as invalid denominator. Can one try block have multiple catch blocks here? Your answer is absolutely yes. Okay, your answer is what? Absolutely yes. One try block can have any number of catch blocks here, but only one catch block or that specific catch block only will get executed here. Okay, so now tell me what will be the output of this program here. Okay, will it be invalid denominator? Okay, or will it be invalid index position here? What will be the respective output here? Okay, will the first catch block get executed or the second catch block get executed? Okay, so here when I tell 1 here, 10 divided by 0 over here, we are creating an object of arithmetic exception. Then object of arithmetic exception is thrown. And is the catch block trying to catch arithmetic exception? Yes. So invalid denominator will get executed and the remaining blocks are ignored. See, did I get the output as invalid index position? Invalid denominator? Yes. It doesn't matter if you write this catch block above and this below. It doesn't matter. I will always get the same output here. See, we are dividing a number by 0. It is arithmetic exception object. Is it caught by array index? No, arithmetic only should match. Here, arithmetic, yes. So this catch block is ignored and this, it's like if else here. Okay, which is condition is true, it will either get executed. Got it? Now, okay, imagine, okay, what will be the output over here if I just write it as null pointer exception invalid. Okay, I'll just write it as invalid. Okay, now what will be the output, guys? Can you tell me here what will be the output here? Any idea what will be the output here? Sir, when I execute the exception here, I will still get an exception only. See, I will get an exception only. Why? You told us to handle, sir. We have handled it. But why the hell am I still giving an exception? So, all exception should be handled, right? Okay. But it should be suitable try and catch block. You just cannot handle it randomly, okay? The exception here it is occurring is not something called as arithmetic exception. But you're trying to handle array index out of bound exception, null pointer exception. So where is arithmetic exception handler? There is no catch block which will handle when we get arithmetic exception. So therefore, we can also make use of the superclass exception called as exception E here. So this is nothing but, okay, superclass exception handler. Okay. So now tell me which block will get executed here. When I execute it here, the superclass exception handler got executed. How? Sir, upcasting. What is upcasting over here? The third catch block. What is upcasting over here, guys? See, I will tell you. Okay. So, can I tell? See, arithmetic exception is a class. Okay. that is inheriting runtime exception class, and that is in turn inheriting the exception class. But arithmetic exception is directly or indirectly subclass of exception. So now when I tell 10 divided by 0 here, internally what is happening? Throw means the object of arithmetic exception is thrown. Correct? Throw, the object of arithmetic exception. That can be stored into a reference E, which is of type superclass, that is exception. That is nothing but superclass reference, okay, superclass reference and the subclass object here. Got it? Creating an object of subclass and storing its address into a reference of type superclass. Superclass reference, subclass object. So arithmetic exception can be caught by arithmetic exception only, or the superclass exception only. Got it? So this is what we are supposed to understand. Clear? So now one try block. Can it have any number of catch blocks? Yes. Okay. And it is always a good practice to handle the superclass exception as the last catch block here. Why? I will tell you over here. See here, what will be the output of this specific program here? Okay, what will be the output of this specific program? So here I'll write it as invalid denominator. Which block will get executed? 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 4 catch blocks here. But which catch block will get executed? Is it first? Is it second? Is it third? Or is it fourth? Okay? Quickly tell me. You need to just apply common sense here. Sir, when I tell 10 divided by 0 here, an object of arithmetic exception is thrown. Okay? It will get compared with array index. Can arithmetic object be caught by array index? No. Can arithmetic object caught by null pointer exception? No. Can arithmetic object be caught by arithmetic exception? Yes. Therefore, invalid denominator will get executed and the remaining catch blocks are ignored. So therefore, when I execute it, what is the output I get? Invalid denominator. Clear? What if, okay, I do not have this catch block. I don't have arithmetic exception catch block. Then 10 divided by 0 is nothing but arithmetic exception will get. Is it caught by array index? No. Is it caught by null pointer? No. Is it caught by the superclass exception? Yes. Why? Because all the classes will have the superclass exception as the superclass. I mean exception as the superclass. So it can be caught by its specific exception or the superclass exception. Clear? But now what if I have this way here? Why is it giving an error here? Okay. If I just hover on it, see, unreachable catch block for arithmetic exception, it is already handled by catch block for exception. Normal English they have told here. So when I tell 10 divided by 0 here, we will get arithmetic exception. Arithmetic exception, is it caught by array index? No. Is arithmetic exception caught by null pointer? No. Is the arithmetic exception caught by exception? Yes. It will get handled over here. But why are we handling it outside here? So therefore, always the superclass exception should be the last catch block in your program. It should always be the last catch block in your program here. So when I tell 10 divided by 0, it can either get caught by arithmetic exception or the superclass exception here. If I do not have arithmetic exception, then automatically the superclass exception handler will handle it. Clear? So this is what we are supposed to understand when we get, okay, one try block will have multiple catch blocks here. Clear? This is all about the entire process here. And one more thing over here, between try and catch block here, we cannot have any executable statements here. See, I'll get an error here. If I just hover on it, syntax error, blah, blah, blah. Why? Between try and catch block here, I cannot have any executable set of instructions. That's the reason it's giving an error. Can I have a comment here? Yes. Why? Comments does not get executed. No. So I cannot have only executable lines of code. But comment does not get executed at all. It's just an added information. So therefore, we are not supposed to have executable lines of code between, okay, try and catch block here. Okay. So this is all about the basics of exception handling here. Clear everyone here? Okay. So we'll just have a basic revision over here. Okay. So that it's one of the most important topic here for your interview perspective. Trust me, it's going to be really, really important for you all. Okay. So first of all, what did we start the section with? We started with something called as error here. Okay. What is an error? As I told you, error is a mistake or an interruption. Okay. Which will occur during the execution of a program here. Okay. Error is a mistake or an interruption which will occur during the execution of a program. That is during compile time due to syntax mistakes and runtime whenever we execute a class without main method. Therefore, when we get an error here, we cannot handle. Okay, we cannot handle. So we have to always debug. Got the clarity here? Then what is an exception? Sir, exception is nothing but it's an interruption or it's an event or interruption. Your program will stop. Okay, once the event or interruption will occur, your program execution will stop. Okay, and the below lines of code will not get executed. So therefore, what are we supposed to do? We are supposed to handle. And the process of handling an exception is called as exception handling. So how do we handle an exception? With the help of try and with the help of catch block. We handle the exception with the help of try block and catch block here. Got the clarity here? So errors are interruption that cannot be handled. Exceptions are interruption that can be handled. Got the clarity? Okay. This is all about error and exception. And all the exceptions are all predefined classes. Okay. All the exceptions are all predefined classes. So I have one hierarchy. Okay. This is the exception hierarchy which we have here. So I will just increase the brightness as well. Just observe here what is happening. Okay. So the supermost class, okay, in the exception hierarchy is, okay, throwable. Under throwable, we have two subclasses, that is error and exception. So exceptions such as file not found, class not found, interrupted exception, IO exception, they all will inherit the exception class directly. That's the reason we call it as checked exception. But we have actual meaning of checked that we will understand later. And we have exceptions such as arithmetic exception, array index out of bound exception, null pointer exception, all those. They are all inheriting the runtime exception class and that will again in turn inherit the exception class. Therefore, we call it as unchecked exception. But the basic knowledge behind it is all the classes are the subclass of exception class. Clear? So therefore, we also understood the everything over here. Correct? We also understood what is error, what is exception, and how do we handle an exception and the hierarchy as well. Okay? What is try and catch block? So as I told you here, the critical lines, meaning it can be one line or it can be 10 lines or whatever it is. The critical lines, okay, which will give an exception, write it in the try block. The solution, write it in the catch block. And catch block will get executed only if you get an exception, not all the time. Okay. And try and catch block are like couples, they have to be together. And I have told you here what is the syntax of try and catch block. Okay. Can one try block have multiple catch blocks? Yes, sir. One try block can have any number of catch blocks, but that specific catch block only will get executed. And try and catch block should be immediate. There cannot be any executable lines of code between that. Clear? Now, what if I do not know the exception name? Okay? You know arithmetic exception will occur, you will write it as arithmetic exception. What if you are not sure of the exception name? So you will always write the superclass exception. Why? Because as I told you here, when an exception will occur, an object of that exception will get created and that object is thrown and that is caught by the catch block. But if I write the superclass exception handler, all the exceptions could be caught there. Okay. So this is what we have seen in the programs over here. Okay. So in this particular class, we saw how do we handle an exception by the help of arithmetic exception. This is nothing but specific exception handler, meaning this catch block will get executed only when we get arithmetic exception. That is the reason we call it as specific exception handler. Okay, and then this catch block. Okay, wait, I'll just copy paste it. See here, this catch block will get executed only when we get array index out of bound exception. So this is also a specific exception handler. Only specific types of exceptions could be handled. Okay, and I told you here, okay, see 10 divided by 0 here. Okay, what will happen internally? An object of arithmetic exception is created and that object is thrown, and that is caught by the arithmetic exception here. Even if I write it as superclass exception handler over here, your program works fine. See here, your program works fine. How? Because superclass exception is the, exception is the supermost class in the exception hierarchy basically. Clear? So here we are throwing an object of arithmetic exception, meaning new arithmetic exception object is thrown. Clear? That object is thrown in this. When I tell 10 divided by 0, an object of arithmetic exception is thrown. That is caught by the superclass exception called as exception E here. This is what is happening. The subclass object, superclass reference. This is nothing but upcasting happening internally. Okay, so this is what generalization. So when I write it as exception E, all the type of exceptions could be caught here. Okay, so this is what we are supposed to understand over here. Clear? Now, can one try block have multiple catch blocks? Yes, but always the superclass exception handler is optional. But if you write it, it's always a good practice, because if the above catch block does not satisfy, does not get executed, automatically the last catch block will get executed. It's something like if else, guys. If else, if else, if else. By default, if none of the cases will get executed, the last catch block will get executed. That way, it's always a good practice to handle the superclass exception at the last catch block. Okay. So this is all about the section for today.